All right, here we go. We are officially in on Kevin E. IG Live. The actor overcomes nepotism. Yep, And our first thought about nepotism is, why are we even having this conversation, Kevin? You're either related to somebody in the business that matters or you're not. So why do we got to talk about it? Well, I agree. It's kind of a black and white factual thing. And since there's so little in our profession that's black and white, when I get something that's black and white, I freaking love it because I don't have to think about it. But now I want you to think about this, because the question is this. Now, this could have happened to you right off the bat. Maybe it didn't. Maybe you have a distant uncle, a distant cousin, a distant relation in some way that's an active part, as I always say, an active, legitimate part of the performance profession in some way. That's always my qualifier. Active and legitimate. All right? Now, maybe you do. Obviously, we know most people don't. I certainly didn't have anybody I was related to. Yeah, I know. Alana, right. Don't I wish? Don't we all wish? But this is part of why we're having the conversation. Because we commonly go down the road. First of all, in this country, and I'm not going to say it doesn't exist in other countries. I know it does because we're human. America has both a good and bad reputation for being too pushy, too capitalist. That's a whole other subject. But it comes down to that common cliche of keep up with the Joneses, right? It's very hard to try and assimilate in your own self as an actor when you're in acting class, or you choose to listen to somebody like me and buy my book and go, okay, here's all this shit I gotta do, right? And then you encounter somebody who doesn't have to do any of it because I won the birth card. And you know what that does to us a lot of times? Pisses us off. And I will continue. I'm not ever going to stop so long as I choose to speak with this community. I will never stop talking as much about the importance of show and being talented and craft in your auditions and on the job. I just had a huge audition yesterday for a relatively sizable feature film with a very well-known star. Man, would I like to get it. But I will never stop talking about the value and purpose of the state of your mind, ever. I'm never going to stop talking about it, especially when it comes to this subjective, artistic profession you are wanting to do for money that's in the control of other people. We're not discussing you being a filmmaker. We're discussing being performers. And when nepotism is not what befalls us in our lives, it can be irritating. And, a lot of that would be the tagline to this conversation, right? Nepotism, don't I wish, right? There you go. What I don't want is I don't want the don't I wish to be something that actually becomes a hindrance to you. This is the challenge we face, you guys, is diminishing down what we don't do, diminishing down who we are, diminishing down anything about the process we have to go through because we happen to know someone who doesn't. Simply because they're breathing and were born into that family. That is the part that, it winds up, here's the thing, it actually winds up being it winds up starting to feel like a degree of rejection, which I just covered. That's why I told you guys I was going to do a whole series of things that were very mentally and psychologically based on psychology. My man, Colin Inn's in the house. Happy Friday, brother. So you can't take nepotism and turn it into a form of rejection when it comes to trying to pursue a career in this profession. You can't. And if you do, then once again, that actually goes back to what I said in rejection. Are you really wanting are you trying to make sure that you just want to sit around and spend time in self-pity? Because that's all it is. Once again, I'm not judging. I'm just sharing with you whether it's being a martyr, whether it's playing the victim card, whether it's self-pity or it's self-sabotage, or you want to be in a place of misery. All of those things we all experience all those things. And we've all been victim of them and or helped ourselves do them. I have. But that's one of the reasons why I cop to it when I talk. Man, I've done a form of self-sabotage. I've played the victim card. I had martyrdom briefly in Hollywood. I just didn't live in it. That's the difference. As soon as I realized what the hell I was doing, I go, oh, well, that's not who I am as an athlete. It's not who I am as a person. Okay, I didn't win the birth card. Next. You got to move on, y'all. But here's the key. The key is, if you do this business long enough and if you work hard, guess what's going to happen? You're going to wind up on a set, in a place, at a show, doing a thing or whatever, and you're going to actually encounter somebody who has nepotism on their side. That's actually what's going to happen. The longer you're in this business, I bet that a lot of actors can actually say, oh yeah, I know so-and-so. Now, we would probably spend a little time vetting on the truth of honestly how well they know them, because the word friend gets really abused in this profession. And I urge you, as a point of note in this live, to be very, very careful how you use the word friend. That is why I put two words on around this subject. I say professional friend, and then sometimes I say acquaintance. The reason being is, man, when you're friends with somebody, that's someone that's a person that invites you over for a barbecue. That's somebody that says, hey man, we're having a thing at the pool, come on over. If you're not that kind of friend with someone and you're friendly, then that's either a professional acquaintance, or you can qualify really good acquaintance, strong acquaintance, whatever. But what I want you to understand is that what you want to work for in nepotism, when nepotism is not on your side, is you want to look for the opportunities that give you 1 degree of separation of nepotism. That is the point. That is 100% the point. You cannot expect somebody. This is my problem with judgment of birth card. You cannot expect somebody who doesn't know to know. It's absurd. This is an artistic profession. It's a subjective profession. We can sit around all day long and talk about who's good, who's not, whatever. Doesn't matter. What this profession really is about, like a lot of life, is access and opportunity. That's what it's about. And if your birth card grants you access and opportunity without having to do anything, you don't know anything different. And even in athletics, like where I came from, there's still even a form, obviously, of the birth card. Because I couldn't afford, I wasn't a member of a country club. It doesn't mean you don't have to go out and work hard as an athlete to really succeed and do really well. But at the same time, if you're still handed the red carpet of time, money, and not having to work to pay bills when you're young, that's a form of nepotism working for you as an athlete. I didn't have that either. I had to work and try to find time to practice. That's life. You can sit around and be bitter about it. You can sit around and piss and moan about it. Or you can just go, okay, how can I make this work for myself? So point number 1 is, don't expect people you know that won the birth card and have nepotism, don't expect them to have the work ethic you're going to have. Point number 1, can't do it. Because what you can't afford to do, you guys, when you do encounter somebody, and you will, if you do this long enough and you work, you can't expect somebody that you encounter to have a work ethic about the business like I talk about. You can't expect them to have that kind of a work ethic as it pertains to them. That's not how they've grown up. They're not going to have it. Their world was, they were breathing, someone took their pictures, someone immediately represented them because they were so-and-so's kid or daughter or cousin or whatever, and they just started going out on auditions because their name was the last name. I mean, I say it all the time. And if you haven't heard me say it, remember, I read for Reservoir Dogs twice. Not once, twice. Twice. Sitting 8 feet from Quentin Tarantino and Lawrence Bender. And who got the job I went up for? His name was Christopher. His last name was Penn, known as Sean's brother. And most people don't even realize that their father, Leo Penn, was a longtime television director because he actually directed me in my first primetime show, Matlock. So understand, guys, you can sit around and be pissed off about that, or you can realize if you're sitting on the other side of the fence, that when you're trying to get a small independent movie made, you're going to put as many names on that poster as you possibly can to sell it. That's called business. This is why I say all the time, yes, I am a sensitive Piscean male. People offend me all the time. Hollywood has never offended me because Hollywood tells you exactly what it is, and it is. So when nepotism's not in your favor, you got to look to utilize nepotism in your favor. So let's go to point number 2 about this. You can't expect from them something they don't do and don't have, but work for the 1 degree of separation, man. And if you ever, exactly, can't change anything about it, Will. And the work around, here comes the work around it part. And this is also when we get into danger, Will, and this is actually, because this is really the scenario we who don't have the birth card are going to face. This is the core key to this live today, all right, all right, so for whatever reason, doesn't matter how, remember, it does not matter how. However, don't ever forget, as the old joke goes, you know, second chance to make a first impression. Not so much that, but don't ever lose sight of the inception point of meeting somebody. Where, when, how you meet someone, especially in this profession, matters, okay? So once you encounter somebody like that, for whatever reason, I do not care, and you become friendly with that person, and you have 1 degree of separation. What's up, Tony? My man. I have no idea why my screen does that. Okay, there we go. My man. Once you have a degree of separation with somebody that would fall into the category of an active, legitimate person that is a product of nepotism. I would be talking about, you know, Spielberg's grandkid or Spielberg's kid. I wouldn't be talking about the person themselves who is the known person. It's the relation of theirs. This is what tends to happen with us, and be careful. What we tend to do, especially if they like us, and especially if it's over a short period of time, remember, life is not a one-night stand. I'm not against one-night stands. I'm just telling you, one-night stand isn't a blissful 25-year marriage. They're 2 different things, clearly. So understand that there's always this short honeymoon period of time. And if you doubt me, please go back and watch the movie Talented Mr. Ripley. Talented Mr. Ripley is a really good idea of wishful nepotism gone wrong. Now, don't obviously do it to the letter of what that movie is, but the point being is wanting to live somebody else's life because they have you around their life some is the danger. You are never going to be family. Relax. Don't go that far. Don't go to a place, if you get to know someone in there, where you start feeling a degree of entitlement and birth cardism because you're near them. That is the mistake, and it's a very natural mistake. It's not that there's something wrong with it. I'm just begging you at this point in my life, don't make that mistake when this happens to you. The most valuable, point number 2, the most valuable thing you can do when you find yourself in the position of having 1 degree of separation for someone who has nepotism in Hollywood, and again, Hollywood being the whole world, on their side is don't change 1 thing about the effort that you're making. Keep pursuing your career. Don't push that conversation on them. Certainly don't ever point a finger at them about what they're not doing. It's just part of your life. You know, how I've pursued my career and what I do is sometimes a part of a conversation, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I'm talking about sports, sometimes I'm talking about politics, sometimes I'm talking about traveling, sometimes I talk about this business. I talk about all of it. But the key is for them to hear, and this is very subconscious, is for them to hear that you're working at it. Because if they don't hear that, then it is natural for them to think that you're just hanging out for them, waiting for them to toss you a bone. And that, they all know this. This is the point. Even in their own lives, y'all, not even related to acting. Every single person I've ever known that was a trust fund person, every single person I've ever known that was a millionaire or multimillionaire, and I know them, that's something they're used to by the time they're 22 years old. They're just used to people trying to get something from them for simply breathing. And you can't be that actor when it comes to them. You can't do it. You can't be that guy or gal. You have to enjoy their company and appreciate whatever things befall you because you're nearby and you're an acquaintance or you become a friend. But when it comes to this business, you just have to keep pushing forward on what it is you're actually working on. You can't engage them with expectation because they will smell it. What's that old thing? Dogs and bees can smell fear. Let me tell you what kids of nepotism can smell. They can smell association expectation. Ooh, look, that's a hashtag. I just invented it. It's a hashtag. Association expectation. Can't do it, y'all. Cannot do it. It will harm you in the end. And what happens is, because I've seen it, haven't necessarily experienced it, but I've seen it, is they literally just close the door one day. One day you're in, next day you're out, and that door is not opening again. I've seen this, one of the most common scenarios I've witnessed over my time in LA, 3 decades plus, okay, is the person who's an unknown actor who chooses to be, who winds up in the position of either being a personal assistant for somebody big, but they're an actor, and or winds up being some kind of a nanny or au pair for somebody who's really big in the industry. Those two positions, I have watched this happen when somebody is doing a job and they're right next to somebody inside their personal lives. They know shit that goes on. They see and hear things that those people know they're seeing and hearing. The last thing you can do is engage with expectation. You just got to keep doing your thing. No matter whether it's friendly, whether it's associated with a job, you just got to do your thing. And then occasionally, say, hey man, what's going on? I had a couple auditions last week and a thing and a blah and a whoop-de-doo. And oh, I booked this and I'm shooting that. And then change the subject. It just has to be that this is a part of the industry and this is something that you're doing that you want to, but you're not in any way ever leaning and hoping to grab onto those coattails. And listen, I will tell you that when you're around them, it's hard. It is hard, y'all. I'm not going to kid you. I have a pretty good friend who's an Oscar winner. And I have many others along the way that have really big careers, and it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's not hard, but can't do it. You just have to keep doing yo thing. You have to stay dialed in on as if you didn't know them, because here's the whole point. The whole point to nepotism for me is obviously not the definition of the word, because that's easy. You're either a product of nepotism or you aren't. Done. IG Live over. Okay? But you wouldn't be here if you were. Nobody will ever listen to this. Nobody will pay attention to the chapter in my book about nepotism if they actually had nepotism on their side. They wouldn't even buy the book. They wouldn't bother. So nepotism is only going to apply in this conversation to when you don't. But the imperative part of it is you have to find a way for it to work for you because of this. You guys all know the cliche, guilt by association. Okay, how about nepotism by association? Not from that direct person. No. Friends with, great acquaintance with, really good professional pal with. Want to know why? When they have a backyard barbecue, when they have a movie premiere that you get to have a seat in the back at, and there's a social mixer afterwards, who are their friends? Who are they associated with? Think there might be a, I don't know, legitimate representative in that room? Think there might be any producers or writers who have really long resumes or shows on the air? Guys, there's, the road to Hana, right, in Hawaii, for anybody who's ever been. 7 sacred pools, I've been there. They're really not that cool, and they don't appear to be that sacred, but that's not the point. I much more prefer the walk 3 miles in through the bamboo forest, but that's just me. So the whole point is, if you're even in the shallow end, metaphor, here comes Kevin with the metaphors, even if you're in the shallow end, but you're in the water of a swimming pool that they own, guess who you're in the water with? That's why, and that's how nepotism works for you. But you can't let up on your work ethic. You can't constantly be languaging sentences that sound like you want somebody to give you something because they're your buddy. Can't do it, man. You can't. And this doesn't mean that you play weak. This doesn't mean you don't ever speak your opinion. It doesn't mean that you don't act like a human being. I'm not talking about being a shell of yourself. I'm talking about not being a shill of yourself. That's what I mean. Okay? Don't walk on eggshells. Be you. They like you for you. But don't get too deep into certain conversations, and don't just come across like somebody who's kind of standing around waiting for somebody to give them something, because they can smell it. I assure you, it's like me, again, quoting Eddie Murphy. I do it all the time from Beverly Hills Cop. It's like, I smell it. I'm a Muslim, man. There's pork over there. You're a cop. All folks in those positions can sense that. That's why the dogs and bees can smell fear thing is funny. And they can. I've been attacked by bees. I've been attacked by dogs. Not afraid of either one of them. So they can smell this, guys. There's absolutely no question. So that's point number 1. Don't expect them to have work ethic. Point number 2, you got to keep being you, because being in and around the pools of who they're around actually winds up being the value, and that leads into point number 3. So you have 2 ways to create your own nepotism. That's what you got to do. I call it a master contact list. But it's more than that. When you have associations with people that you met through them, those people who know that nepotism person that you're friends with, they automatically give you way more credence just because you're there than they would if they met you someplace, even maybe on a set. It's one of the reasons why I don't do background work, but that's not the point. Okay? Because you're at a personal, social occasion. Again, I'll make another joke, because I make jokes out of movies all the time. Wedding Crashers. There you go. Watch that movie. And it doesn't, again, don't go to the literal part of what the movie's about. Go to the part about the fact the characters did research and they were able to have certain types of conversations that helped get them in and keep them in over this whole weekend, even though they were completely full of shit. And the people around Christopher Walken and Rachel McAdams' characters just accepted them. But that's also why you're not a liar as a person, because you get caught and you go from being in to being completely out. So this is my point. But it's the associations of the people in your nepotism world, y'all. That's the key. I just can't say it loud enough. The one thing you can't do is you can't take your nose off the grindstone. But you also can use the value of that to increase the likelihood of some of those associations surrounding that one association that may eventually come to fruition for you. And then there's the other part of what simply life is, okay? And that's why I'm such an advocate of not just pursuing agents, managers, and casting directors, but also spending a good percentage of your career chasing and pursuing and making people aware of directors and producers and writers and showrunners, because that is your professional family. I call it a spider web, master contact list. There's lots of things that I call it. But you can build your own nepotism. I have. Because if you hang around long enough, not just hanging around, but actually working hard and building some kind of a career, a degree of credibility, this actually gets easier to assimilate every day. And the more you can have people that surround you in a, I've known you for a long time in this profession, and I at least know that you are a credible person and professional. Yeah, you could call it a master contact list, true. You can call it your spider web, true. But when you associate it with the word nepotism, even Kevin would absolutely share with you, if you had me divide up all the people that I know in this business globally, I could still put them into 3 or 4 sections. And when it comes to the word nepotism and building your own professional nepotism family, I would be talking about the people in the top section. The people that I know, they know, I know, we know the absolute best, and have the most professional friend relationship with, the most key conversations that we've had over time, and that we know, you know, things about their life, about their childhood, things about them. It's, again, careful, but I'm just talking about in any sect of a group, there's always going to be the upper percentage. And for me, in this profession, globally, but certainly more within the United States, those people become the nepotism-oriented set of people within my master contact list, within the spider web that I've built and keep building all the time. You know, I go from knowing one person, and now the executive producer that works for him is now a pretty good friend of mine. Notice, pretty good. Pretty good. I ain't getting an invite to go over to his house for a barbecue, but pretty good. Maybe someday I will. I don't know. Maybe not. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. See, that's just it. I don't care. It makes no diff. The fact that I can go do something athletic with him or go to hike and we have chats about shit that doesn't have anything to do with his business and he likes me, that's it. I'm good. I know that I don't need any more than that. And I actually sometimes don't even want more than that. That's part of what I learned, was to limit how far, when you create your own nepotism, how far you need to push that, you know, somewhat analogous metaphor of, you know, are we family? It's like, no, I'm not family. But I'm not just another actor to them. I'm not just somebody with a picture online someplace. And I'm not just some dude that they saw in an audition once. There's a space in between birth card and John Q. Professional where you live in my own nepotism family. Okay? And that is what we all, in my opinion, should be working towards every single time we encounter somebody who is an active, legitimate professional on any side of this profession going up or is already up in comparison in relation to us. But you still got to be a person, and you still need to continue to work hard and pursue your career. And that's why the pen or pencil is always in the ear. All right, guys, we're coming right up on the edge of 30 minutes. That's my Friday. That's Yo Friday of this IG Live, The Actor Overcomes on Nepotism. I will see you guys on Monday. If you got time to come to one of the issue times, come to it when you see it. And also know that next week, Monday's the only show because I got to be out of town on Wednesday and Friday. All right, guys, have a great weekend. See y'all soon. Bye.